Hey everyone, Rob J here, and welcome to the Nova. Today we're going to talk about Streets of Rage 3 for the Sega Genesis, the sequel to the amazing beat 'em up Streets of Rage 2. Now, did this live up to the hype of Streets of Rage 2? A lot of people say that Streets of Rage 3 is a mixed bag. It's positive in the innovation of new moves, but it's negative that it didn't really elevate from what Streets of Rage 2 was. So it's a bit of from column A and column B, mixed bag. But let's talk about the story and the region differences. In North America, the story goes is that Mr. X has been, he's low key. He's been defeated twice. He's kind of in the shadows, but he's always listening. And what he's trying to do is replace all the officials in the city to robots under his control. And he's trying to distract Blaze and Axel and Skate and Dr. Zan by planting explosives while he does this. Seems a simple enough story. In the Japanese version, what happens is there's this new kind of explosive called Racine. I don't know if I'm saying it properly, but it explodes in the city and kills thousands of people. And this is also caused by Mr. X. And what also he does is that he makes the general of defense disappear. Now, what his intentions are in that storyline is that he wants to cause a global war. That's the summary I got out of the Japanese version. That's as far as I know. So you can see the two different lengths of stories there between the North American version, where Mr. X wants to control all the officials by making them robots. So he's trying to make every single one of them disappear, and the Japanese version where he wanted to cause a global war. And he's also responsible for making the general defense disappear. So I'm not too sure why there was such a storyline difference. Maybe because the fact that the explosion killed thousands of people, and maybe at the time in North America that wasn't such a great thing to talk about, and I can completely understand the storyline differences. What I was also reading was that they kind of kept a lot of the cut scenes, but also cut out the cut scenes in the North American version, but tried to show it in a way that it followed the storyline of Mr. X, replacing all these officials with also planting explosives around the city. So it's creative what the North American team did with the storyline, but I don't know. I guess I don't know why they just didn't create the same storyline, but made it a little bit more, sensitive. I guess if that's the word I'm looking for, because explosions and killing people can be really sensitive, and I completely understand that. So, yeah. But that's the story. I kind of want to cut it off right there because I don't want to get anything more into the storyline. I understand why they did it, and let's leave it at that. Let's go on into the roster. So we have Axel, who's making his way back in. Blaze, Skate. They replaced Max with Dr. Zan, who is the one who kind of discovered that Mr. X wanted to replace all the officials in the city with robots, and that's why he's helping out the team of Skate, Axel, and Blaze to put an end to the syndicate. In the Japanese version, Dr. Zan discovers this explosive and understands that it was created under Mr. X somehow, I believe, and that's why he wanted to go to Axel and Blaze, because he's already having a criminal record. And it's a little more complex in the Japanese version. That's the kind of the gist of it. He didn't want to go to the police to talk about that explosive. He wanted to go to Axel and Blaze, so that's how they teamed up in the Japanese version. But anyways, let's get back to the one I played in the North American version. And let's talk about those characters in general. So there's also two secret characters as well. There's Rue, which is the boxing kangaroo, and there's also Shiva. You can unlock Rue by defeating this boss who's tag team with Rue if you defeat that boss who's controlling Rue. He doesn't become selectable right away. You have to die and then be able to select him. And then Shiva, I believe, as you defeat him, you're supposed to hold B or A, and then he'll become a selectable character in the same sense of where if you die, you can now select Shiva. So that's pretty cool. I do like using Rue. Rue is a pretty quick character. He's really fast. He's a lot of fun. The only thing I don't like about him is that he doesn't have any really good throws. And that kind of sucks with some stages where there's a lot of open gaps and everything where you can throw enemies down there. But let's get back to the main four there. Everyone now has these secret moves as well as a like an energy bar where instead of using your health, you can use that energy bar, but that's not stopping you from using your special move. That just helps you to kind of negate one special move without using your health, which is nice. There are secret moves, which I didn't know until I looked up in FAQ on GameFAQs, and I'm like, well, this is kind of silly. I don't know why. Like, it's kind of cool. It has that, but I don't know. I feel like there should have been some kind of demonstration of your new special moves. It would have been kind of cool to have just like a brief, here are the controls. Here's what's new. Here's what's not. But again, this was in the 90s, and it's maybe the instruction manual had that. I'm not too sure. Actually, give me 1 second. I'm gonna look up I'm gonna look in the instruction manual now to see if those moves were ever displayed. 1 second. So I just came back from looking at the instruction manual, and they never mentioned anything about these special moves. But you can only use these special moves if you have a 6-button controller. So it's really important to play Streets of Rage 3 with a 6-button controller. I'm going to put these moves in the description below so you can see them and see how they're performed, but they're actually pretty powerful moves, and they have a good area of effect in terms of damaging your enemies. And I'm like, and they don't cost health, they don't cost anything of your power meter. It's insane they don't display this, but I guess on the box it does say there's secret moves, but like, how are you supposed to know these button combinations? Everything should have been displayed. There should have been no secret moves. But I guess that was just kind of like the ooh and the ah with just Rage 3. So, but anyways, that's kind of about it in terms of the gameplay. Well, that's the roster, not the gameplay. The roster. It all plays relatively the same as Streets of Rage 2. It seems like it's like Streets of Rage 2.0 because there's not a whole big difference. Like they also added, like a tuck and roll. They also added a run. So that's about it. Yeah. And some characters can use weapons as a part of their move. Like I've seen Blaze use a sword as like a charging attack. I've seen Axel use like a bat with like a cool little uppercut, I believe, or like a cool swipe. And Dr. Zan uses the weapons as like a little energy ball in his hands that he can throw. I don't think it increases his damage, and Skate stays the same. Rue cannot use weapons, and I'm not too sure about Shiva. One noticeable thing, though, in the gameplay is the difficulty is insane. It's through the roof, and I read on another wiki that the Japanese version is so much easier and enjoyable compared to the North American version. And in a lot of my reviews, I discuss about why this happens in the North American version, where the difficulty is ramped up. And I can only assume what I assume. And I assume that it's because they want to prevent people from renting it so that they would buy it. That's the only explanation. And for me, I saw the ratings that some old magazines and rating systems gave Streets of Rage 3, and they were pretty positive reviews. But as I'm playing it now, I don't find it enjoyable. It's to the point where it kind of drags on, and it comes across as you're this weak character versus Streets of Rage 2, where you're like this powerful character. Like when you were Axel, Skate, Blaze, or Max, you were so tough, and the difficulty did spike, but it was reasonable. In Streets of Rage 3, it just spikes out of nowhere, and sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not, and sometimes you're just like, what's going on here? Like some boss fights last too long. Like as an example, you're fighting these 3 samurais. I think it's Yamato. I think that's the boss's name. I could be wrong, could be completely wrong, but fighting this boss takes forever, and they're not a difficult boss at all. There's 3 of them. I'm saying you know what I mean. Anyways, they're not a difficult boss, but their health bars are like maxed to like 3, and it takes forever to defeat them, and it's not fun at that point. And going further into the levels, you fight Jet again, who is like more sinister looking, and he takes forever to kill as well because he's got so many health bars. It's not fun for me, and I swear, as I'm playing the game, some enemies have random spikes in terms of their speed and as well as their maybe not their damage, but actually, you know what? Scratch that. It's only their speed. I swear I see that their speed spikes, and you're like, what's going on here? Why are they so difficult all of a sudden? Why are they faster than me? Don't understand it. But that's what really took the cake for me in terms of enjoyment. It's not enjoyable. There's random difficulty spikes. The bosses are too long. Like, to me, it's not fun. I think the first couple of stages are pretty fun, but then going into the construction area and then going into like construction area. I'm trying to remember the stages here because they were so frustrating. My memory is like blocking them. It's like, Robert, you don't need to remember those stages. They frustrate you too much. But like there was the lab that was pretty frustrating. There was the countdown timer level where you have to save the chief of police. That level was pretty frustrating as well. I'm trying to remember some others here, but see, and that's the problem. Oh. This sort of mining level where this mining cart comes out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere. I think it has a pattern, but like it'll come. You can hear it coming, and there's two rails, and you either have to be on the top rail or the bottom rail. And if you're on the top rail where it's coming, it's gonna hit you. It's gonna hit you pretty hard. That level sucked too. To sum it all up, the game is not enjoyable due to how difficult it is. Now, you might be saying, well, Robert, just get good. You suck. No, play it for yourself, and I guarantee you'll agree with me. The spike is not reasonable. It's unfair at most points. It drags on. Like, I could get past it if it wasn't so damn difficult. But that's where I'm at. And the music, it's okay. There's some stages where I really like the music. Some of them seem to be like not fitting for the stage, and I'm just like, it seems like a really weird tune for the stage. So it's not as memorable as Streets of Rage 2, where every single track was just bang on. It suited the stage. You were pumped up. But Streets of Rage 3 hits the mark for that. And it's a shame. It's a real shame that this game didn't improve upon Streets of Rage 2. But I think Streets of Rage 3 had pretty big shoes to fill, as Streets of Rage 2 was a huge leap forward compared to Streets of Rage 1. And I think that's where a lot of people's views on this game kind of went down, because they're just like, well, this is not a huge improvement because it just looks like Streets of Rage 2. There's some minor palette swaps, new enemies, different moves, but yeah, that's where I think a lot of the reviews and views on this game came to, was that it wasn't a big leap forward compared to Streets of Rage 2. And I can definitely agree with that. And it's funny, as I was checking in the instruction manual, it really wanted to promote the activator. Now, the activator was this octagon controller where you would step in it and, you can do this to move your character. I can't imagine playing with the activator with Streets of Rage 3 of how difficult it is. That would ramp up the difficulty to impossible with the activator. So now it comes to the portion where would I recommend this game? It's tough. It's really tough to say yes. I personally was playing the game and trying to find little bits and pieces of light to enjoy it. While I did, it didn't compensate for what is really bad in the game. So I'm not gonna recommend Streets of Rage 3, unfortunately. It's too tough. There's a huge spike. I have heard though that the Japanese version is very playable because it has a great difficulty. So play the Japanese version and not the North American version. So get the game if you love Streets of Rage 3, but don't get it, because you're not going to enjoy it due to the difficulty spike. So just have it on your wall being like, hey, I own Streets of Rage 3. Do you enjoy it? No. Would you pick up the game to enjoy it? No, because it's not enjoyable. It's just not. And the price tag for this game now is insane. I think I've seen it for, well, not insane, it's reasonable. Like it's, well, $80 to 120. I got mine for $80 back in the day. So, because I really wanted to see why it was panned by a lot of people being like it's bad, and I can see why, because it's just the difficulty spike in the North American version makes it unplayable. And the moves are cool, but it doesn't compensate for that difficulty. It does not help it at all. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Rob J. Thank you for entering the Nova, and I'll see you next time. Take care.